Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Mitchell Ringos. Well, the 2022 Wake the Giant Music Festival is underway at this hour at Marina Park, and organizers had worried about the impact of heavy rain all day yesterday, but things cleared up overnight, allowing the big concert to kick off this afternoon.
But it all kind of worked out. It hasn't rained yet today. It's drying up really nicely. You know, it's not a complete mud pit, and the music is amazing. So, knock on wood, everything's going good.
The two-person rock group Crown Lands were among the musical artists taking the stage throughout the day. Crowds were a bit smaller this afternoon, but Chomut expects that crowd to grow around to 6,000 people by the time Our Lady Peace takes the stage at 10 p.m. The festival is a welcoming event for DFC students who travel from remote communities for a high school education. Chomut is a teacher there and says this is all about bringing Indigenous and non-Indigenous people together and showcasing First Nations culture.
We have some amazing elders and knowledge keepers and jingle dress dancers that are taking the stage and sharing their passions, their culture, their traditions, and the stories about what it means to them so that the rest of us in the community can learn about it. And it's also about having a good time. We welcome our students back to the city in the best way possible, the most exciting way possible with these fabulous artists and a great time.
And this afternoon, nuclear-free Thunder Bay, along with community members, met outside of local MP Patty Haidu's office for a peaceful walk to MPP Lise Vaugeois' office to oppose the proposed transport and burial of nuclear fuel waste in northwestern Ontario. The group of over 50 people gathered outside Haidu's office before their walk and shared their concerns over the possible storage of nuclear waste in the region. The Nuclear Waste Management Organization has two potential sites in mind for the Deep Geological Repository. One is in northwestern Ontario near Ignace, and the other is in southern Ontario. Nuclear-free Thunder Bay says they're opposed to it because of the weaknesses the DGR has and how unpredictable the outcome of it will be in the next 100 years. Co-organizers Dottie Legasic and Charles Faust says they're also concerned with the lack of transparency from the NWMO.
We are, approaching this as a hate crime, and we are going to be taking action.
The walk is part of a number of walks taking place this month in northwestern Ontario. We apologize with that issue there. But moving on, as thousands of people spent London's coldest night in months huddled in line to view the coffin of Queen Elizabeth as the nation prepares for the biggest state funeral in decades. CTV's Joy Malbin has more from London.
A surprise walkabout by Britain's new king, greeting the crowds that have been queuing overnight just to pay their respects to his mother, the Queen.
God save the king! God save the king!
Praising their patience, the king and his eldest son, Prince William, shook as many hands as they could, thanking them for their time.
Well, more than halfway, I gather. That's right, more than halfway.
Not the cold nor the length of time, as long as 24 hours at one point, would deter them from this historic moment.
Our Queen, our beloved Queen, was such a remarkable woman. She dedicated her whole life to serving her people, us.
Hundreds of world leaders arrived in London, some signing a book of condolences at Lancaster House. Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and his wife viewed the Queen lying in state. Paying their respects to Canada's sovereign, Trudeau said the country came of age during her reign, a woman he met when he was just a boy.
Her presence throughout my life had been constant, inspiring, and graceful. As Prime Minister, I benefited from her counsel, her thoughtfulness, her curiosity, her sense of humor.
And as they remember, the Queen's grandchildren, all 8 of them, led by Prince William and Harry in military uniform, stood vigil around her coffin. A moving moment that would make their grandmother proud. London police say the Queen's funeral will be one of the largest security events ever, from flights to businesses. Most of the nation will come to a near standstill in honor of the Queen. Joy Melvin, CTV News, London.
Canada has no laws prohibiting drag queens and kings, yet Dryden OPP questioned a local pride organizer at her workplace this past week. The officer was investigating what she says was not a serious complaint, but rather a homophobic attempt to shut down a drag storytime event scheduled for tomorrow night.
We are, approaching this as a hate crime, and we are going to be taking action.
Catherine Keevening, chair of Rainbow Alliance Dryden, says in addition to being questioned at her office, she received calls from multiple venues about homophobic complaints they received about upcoming drag events, particularly the one on Sunday, which will feature performers who regularly hold storytime events at the Thunder Bay Library. Keevening says she is disappointed by the police presence and feels the OPP let a bigoted person waste police time and resources.
It just felt like we had done something wrong, instead of this person who was calling because they were like, I'm not down with the queer community, or, exposing children to human beings who want to read children's stories to them, all up in makeup and wigs.
A Dryden OPP spokesperson said they cannot yet comment on the issue. In the meantime, the drag event is happening on schedule, with Keevening emphasizing that their events are family-friendly. The Thunder Bay International Baseball Association is hoping the city will take a swing at hosting the 2024 Women's World Cup. Representatives spoke to City Council this week, asking for upgrades at both Port Arthur Stadium and Baseball Central to meet the requirements for the tournament. The recent friendship series between the U.S. and Canadian women's baseball teams was held at Baseball Central, as the stadium hasn't been kept in top condition, with the Border Cats still on hold. Association Director Reg Garbraith says after going through the stadium, the need for upgrades is clear.
I was actually shocked when I walked into the place. The weeds are growing up through the morning track. The boys that were working at the stadium at the time were standing in rubber boots in the dugouts because there was about a foot of water in there.
The bid for the event will require a $35,000 deposit, but the International Baseball Association says they've already got that covered. And with Wake the Giant drawing potentially thousands to Marina Park, earlier today the CLE grounds were crowded with fans and cosplayers for this year's Thundercon. After a 2-year hiatus, the pop culture convention was once again able to bring together fans and my favorite special guest, R2-D2. Jessica Clement reports.
The rain didn't dampen this year's convention, as hundreds came down to check out everything ThunderCon had to offer. This weekend's con featured various panels, a wide genre of vendors, a cosplay competition, and board game demos. The fan convention had been canceled for the past 2 years due to the pandemic, but board chair Kevin Taylor says they're glad to be back.
Yeah, it's been a challenge for sure getting through this, but all of our vendors and sponsors have been really understanding and have been with us the whole time. And of course, our volunteers, none of which are paid, including myself. We're all a volunteer organization, really came together to get this going here for 2022.
And Taylor says he couldn't be happier with this year's turnout.
We got people milling across both buildings. The pre-sale tickets were pretty decent, so we're just hoping that the rain holds off and that everybody has a chance to come on down.
There are a number of special guests present at this year's con, including nefarious villains, Power Rangers, and cosplayers. Thunder Bay local actors Teddy Kellogg, who was Lieutenant Duke in Star Trek Strange New Worlds, and Lisa Marie DiGiacinto, best known as Allie in DC Legends of Tomorrow, could also be seen on the CLE grounds. The pair were wandering around the site meeting fans, and being locals themselves, they both agree that it's important for Northwestern Ontario to have a local fan convention.
You know, you always hear about the big, huge ones in San Diego and Fan Expo in Toronto and stuff. And sometimes for people that live in places that are a bit further away, it's harder to get to. So to have something more local here in Thunder Bay and to have people celebrate, and like I said, people came from Sault Ste. Marie, from Sudbury, like they don't have to necessarily go to the big city to get the fan experience, which is pretty awesome.
People do come from all the small towns in like a 7-8 hour radius, and there's Winnipeg, and then you have to go to the States to get anywhere else that's kind of bigger. So it's nice that we could have this here and have the opportunity for people to just drive here.
The panels, contests, performances, and fun continue on Sunday for the second day of Thundercon. Jessica Clement, TVT News.
And we're now joined by sports anchor Vasilios Bellos. Now, I just want to say that R2-D2, I wish I could take it home, but I don't think that's very possible. But exciting news in the sports world, especially here in Thunder Bay, as high school football is back.
High school football is back. Weather did not cooperate yesterday.
No.
Everyone looked like they had a good time, though. 4 teams went at it. Really cool story. We'll have it right after the break.